Busch Gardens Williamsburg is a really great park that I went to last August. It's most well known for winning the Golden Ticket Award for the most beautiful theme park in the world many years in a row, but they are known for much more than that. They have a great lineup of 11 roller coasters, so in this video I'll be taking them and ranking all of them to see which ones are better than others. So like usual, let's waste no time and get right into the ranking. Starting at the number 11 spot is Grover's Alpine Express. Of course, this is just a zero kiddie coaster, so there's not really too much to say, but there actually are some good positive G's on the Helix, which is surprising since it's just a small little roller coaster. But I really, like usual, don't want to spend too much time talking about it since it is just a kiddie coaster. And starting off the top 10 is Invader. And you might be a little bit confused why this is so low. Well, part of it might be related to expectations, but I really just wasn't that impressed with this coaster. I know it's supposed to be a family coaster, but going in, I heard it had some great airtime moments. But unfortunately, I did not get a single airtime moment at all. And it wasn't exactly smooth either. Not to the point that it was uncomfortable, but it was a weird kind of roughness, almost like the train was like scraping against the track or something. At the number 9 spot is Loch Ness Monster. And let me just get this out of the way, this park doesn't have any bad roller coasters. Just because this and Invader are kinda low, doesn't mean that I think they're bad. Actually, I really liked Loch Ness Monster. I just think that there's other roller coasters in the park that I liked even more. But anyway, to focus on the actual coaster itself, it's surprisingly pretty smooth for an aero coaster, especially after the 2024 retrack. And it combines some of the best parts of aero loopers, that is the drops and the loops. Loch Ness Monster has 3 drops and 2 loops. I would say a coaster like Viper does those two things a little bit better, because Loch Ness Monster only has floater airtime, but it's still really a great coaster, and I hope the park keeps it around for a really long time. At number 8 is Big Bad Wolf, The Wolf's Revenge. This coaster was way better than I expected it to be. After all the hate that Phoenix Rising got, I was expecting an okay family coaster that was tame and rattly, but I got the exact opposite of that. Not only was it very smooth, aside from a small shake in the first few valleys, but both drops gave almost a little bit of airtime in the back row, which is very unexpected, especially for an invert. B&M and Busch Gardens Williamsburg really did good on this new for 2025 family roller coaster. At the number 7 spot is Tempesto. I unfortunately didn't get to ride this one because it was closed for the day, but I have ridden 2 clones of it with Tigress at Busch Gardens Tampa and Phobia Fear Coaster at Lake Compounce. So this is where I would probably rank it if I had ridden it. I think Skyrocket 2s are actually very underrated. They have some crazy intense positives on the ascent into the highest point and at the bottom of the drop. And they also have crazy negative G's on the drop and inline twists. But this one does unfortunately have comfort collars, which does bring it down a little bit. Number 6 is Dark Coaster. This is another roller coaster that really surprised me. I went in hearing that it was the worst straddle coaster and had no theming at all, and some people even went as far as to call it trash coaster. But I thought that this roller coaster was really underrated. The atmosphere was really cool with all the snow theming, and the train seating with the straddle, kind of setup, is really cool. I much prefer it to the motorbike seating on something like Moto Coaster at Six Flags Darien Lake, because when you're on that one's brake run, it really starts to hurt after a while. But Dark Coaster, you can just sit up and it's as comfortable as any other roller coaster. And another thing that surprised me was the launches. I never knew that a drive tire launch could be this strong. And now we are at the top 5, and to start off the top 5, we have a coaster that I found to be just a little bit overrated. It's Alpengeist, the world's tallest B&M invert. I know a lot of other people really like this coaster and say that it's one of, if not their favorite invert, but I just wasn't a huge fan of it. Not only was there some headbanging, but outside of the loop and cobra roll, I really just didn't find it to be that intense at all. It was fast for sure, at least in the first half, but I feel like it kind of fell flat a little bit when it comes to positive Gs, especially in the second half. And the final two inversions, I found to be too slow to have whip, but too fast to have any hang time. And even though it sounds like I hate this roller coaster, that's definitely not true. I do like this coaster. I found it to be the weakest invert I've ridden. At the number 4 spot is Griffin, a B&M dive coaster. And it's actually my second favorite dive coaster, right behind Yukon Striker. And this is a really good dive coaster. It has pretty much everything you could ever want in a dive coaster, which is, 2 great drops, inversions, and even a few airtime moments in the end. It works really well at this park and completely dominates the France area, and kind of the entire park. I mean, it looks huge. And the over-the-shoulder restraints allow you to get just a little bit more airtime on the drops, which luckily it's very smooth, so there is no headbanging. There's also a nice splashdown at the end, and a great view of the water in the distance from the lift hill. All of that makes this the perfect supporting coaster in this park. At number 3 might be a little bit controversial, but it's Verbolten, a zero launch coaster. Where do I even start with this coaster? Pretty much everything about it is just perfect. The launches, the theming, and so much more. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the most expensive coaster in the park's history, and you can tell. It's very well themed from the station to the indoor section. And for whatever reason, this first uphill launch feels really powerful. Maybe it's a mix of the incline and the fact that you're entering a very dark building, but either way, it doesn't really feel like it belongs on a family coaster. And I would actually call Verbolten more of a family thrill coaster than a regular family coaster. One of the main reasons for that is a surprise moment that happens during the indoor section, which I don't want to spoil in this video. And the second half has a pretty good drop over the Rhine River that completely reuses all of the footers from the final drop on the old Big Bad Wolf. But one con with this coaster is that it does get pretty rough in the second half, which could definitely give you a headache, especially if you're towards the back of the train. And at the number 2 spot is Apollo's Chariot, a very underrated B&M hypercoaster. Even if the airtime on this doesn't rival the strength of something like Behemoth or Mako, there are a lot of airtime hills, which completely makes up for it. And unlike the newer B&M hypers, the airtime in certain moments is either a little bit more abrupt, or even sometimes really unexpected, like the final drop, which might even be the best part of the ride. And I think that this has my favorite B&M turnaround on any of the hypers, at least only counting the far turnarounds, with the upward helix that has some pretty good sustained Gs. And the first drop is really good too. The pre-drop allows it to pick up a lot more speed, which means that you take the drop pretty fast, getting some sustained floater airtime. I also really like the wave turn element towards the end, and I will always remember my first ride in the rainstorm and my final rides marathoning it until park closed. And of course at number 1 is Pantheon, the Intamin swing launch coaster. And this is easily one of the most underrated roller coasters ever built. The most common complaint is the lack of theming, which, yeah, it definitely could be a little bit better, but hot take, I don't think a coaster needs any theming to be a really good ride, which is exactly what Pantheon is. This is what I would consider to be a world-class coaster. It has so much variety, so many great forces, and possibly the best trains out there. Just about anything you could want on a coaster. There's great hang time on the 0G winder and 0G stall, great airtime on the top hat, outer bank, and final wave turn, and even a little bit on the trick track hills right before the launch sequence. And speaking of that launch sequence, it's definitely the best part of the ride. You get great weightlessness ascending the top hat and rolling back, and some of the best weightlessness ever in the back row on the vertical spike. Not to mention the crazy backwards airtime on the bunny hill. And the launch is very weird too, because it's split up into two different sections, making it feel very unique, especially going backwards. Tell me in the comments below how you rank the coasters at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. And if you haven't been there, then what do you think of my rankings? And if you enjoyed this video, then please like, comment, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video.